Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And I'm glad you're here today on this autumn day with much needed rainfall. So the last few weeks, we've been talking about, I guess, topics that usually don't come up in Dharma talks. But we've been talking about the writings and influence of individuals who very definitely had a strong influence on the propagation of Buddhism in the West, in the United States. And I'm referring to what are called the beat poets. Now, we talked about Paul Whelan. We discussed Gary Snyder. And I guess a third poet that is even better known than those two is Allen Ginsberg. Now, Allen Ginsberg was part of a movement in poetry that was called the Beat Poets, but also autobiographical poetry. And so in order to really understand or gain appreciation for some of his poetry, it's important to know a little bit about his life. So we'll discuss that a bit. I don't claim to be a biographical expert on Allen Ginsberg, but a few facts I think are helpful. One is that he was born in 1926, sort of pre-Depression, in Newark, New Jersey, across the river from Manhattan. And he grew up in Paterson, New Jersey, which is a historically working class community. At the time that he grew up, it was notorious for political corruption. And one of the longstanding mayors there was called Joe Bozo. And Joe Bozo had a tight connection with the publisher of the local newspaper, who was Harry Haynes. This is alluded to in one of the poems that I'll read. Paterson is on the Passaic River, and it's in the Passaic River Valley, as it's called, as the Passaic flows towards the Hudson. Allen Ginsberg's parents his mother was Naomi, and his father was Louis. Louis Ginsberg was a poet in his own right and published. He made his living as an English teacher, high school English teacher there in Paterson. Naomi Ginsberg had a troubled life. She was a Russian immigrant and was a political activist. She was a member of the Communist Party, actually. And she was afflicted through much of her adult life with mental illness, with paranoid schizophrenia. So she spent a good part of her life as Allen was growing up at a residential psychiatric facility called Greystone there in New Jersey. He alludes to this in some of his other works, particularly his best-known work entitled Howl. So Allen Ginsberg studied at Columbia University on scholarship, and there he met Jack Kerouac, and also William Burroughs studied there. So just as Reed College was sort of the West Coast nidus for the beat poets, Columbia was the East Coast nidus. And in about 1955, they sort of joined forces. In the early 50s is when Allen Ginsberg became interested in Buddhism, and he was a dedicated seeker, is one way of describing his life. So he dipped into many, many different traditions, as will be illustrated in the poem I am about to read. In the realm of Buddhism, he was most closely aligned with Tibetan Buddhism and studied with Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche. And actually, Trungpa came over to visit him one time and inspired this poem. It's called, "What Would You Do If You Lost It?" What would you do if you lost it? Said Rinpoche Chögyam Trungpa Tulku in the marble glittering apartment lobby. Looking at my black box that black hand box full of art, better prepare for death. The harmonium that's Peter's, the scarf that's Krishna's, the bell and brass lightning bolt Phil Whalen selected in Japan. A tattered copy of Blake with chord notations. Black books from City Lights. Australian Aborigine song sticks. Green temple incense. Tibetan precious metal finger symbols. A broken leg a week later, enough reminder, lay in bed and after a few days' pain, began to weep. No reason. Thinking a little of Rabbi Schachter, a little of Father Lewis, a little of everything that must be abandoned. Snow abandoned. Empty dog barks after the dogs have disappeared. Meals eaten pass through the body to nourish tomatoes and corn. The wooden bowl from Haiti, too huge for my salad. Teachings, tantras, Haggadahs, Zohar, revelations, poetries, koans, forgotten with the snowy world. Forgotten with generations of icicles crashing to white gullies by roadside. Dharmakaya, forgot. Nirmanakaya, shoved in coffin. Sambhogakaya, eclipsed in candlelight, snuffed by the playful cat. Goodbye, my own treasures, bodies adored to the nipple, old souls worshipped, flower eye or imaginary auditory panoramic skull. Goodbye, old socks washed over and over, blue boxer shorts, sub-zero longies, new ball boots, black hip length for snowdrifts near the farm mailbox. Goodbye to my room full of books, all wisdoms I never studied, all the Campion, Creeley, Anacreon, Blake I never read through. Blankets, farewell. Orange diamonded trunk from Mexico, Himalayan sheep wool lugged down from Almora, days with Lama, Govinda and Peter trying to eat tough, stubborn, half-cooked chicken. Paintings on wall, Maitreya, Shakyamuni, Padma Sambhava, Dr. Samedi with Haitian spats and cane whiskey. Bhaktivedanta Swami at desk staring sad-eye Krishna at my hopeless self-consciousness. Attic full of toys, desk full of checks. Files on New York police and CIA peddling heroin. Files on Laughing Leary. Files on police state. Files on ecosystems all faded and brown. Notebooks untranscribed. Hundreds of little poems and prose, my own hand. Newspaper interviews. Assemblaged archives. Useless paperwork surrounding me in perfectly chronologic. Humorous later in eternity. Reflective of cities, particular streets, studios, and boudoirs. Goodbye, poetry books. I don't have to take you along anymore on a chain to Dumago, like a red lobster through Paris, Moscow, Prague, Milan, New York, Calcutta, Bangkok, Holy Benares. Yea, Rishikesh and Brindaban, may your prana lift ye over the roof of the world. My own breath slower now, silent, waiting, watching. Downstairs, pump organs, musics, rags and blues, homemade Blake hymns, mantras to raise the skull of America. Goodbye, C chord, F chord, G chord. Goodbye, all the chords of the house of the rising sun. Goodbye, farmhouse, city apartment, garbage subways, Empire State, Museum of Modern Art, where I wandered through puberty, dazzled by Van Gogh's raw-brained star systems, pasted on blue, thick, skyey suchness. Goodbye again, Naomi. Goodbye, old painful-legged poet Lewis. Goodbye, Patterson, the 69 between Joe Bozo and Harry Haynes that outlasted childhood and poisoned the air over Passaic Valley. Goodbye, Broadway. Give my regards to the great falls and boys staring marijuanaed in wonder, hearing the quiet roar of Godfather William's speech. Goodbye, old poets of century that taught fixed eye and sharp tongue from Pound with silent Mooney heart to Tom Beach weeping in Stinson Beach. Goodbye to my brothers who write poetry and play fiddle, my nephews who blow tuba and stroke bass viol, whistle flute or smile and sing in blue rhythm. Goodbye, shades of dead living loves, bodies weeping, bodies broken, bodies aging, bodies turned to wax doll or cinder. Goodbye, America, you hope, you prayer, you tenderness, you IBM 135, 35, electronic, automated battlefield, igloo white, dragon tooth, fuel air bomb over Indochina. Goodbye, heaven, farewell, nirvana, sad paradise, adieu. Adios, all angels and archangels, devas and devakis, bodhisattvas, Buddhas, rings of seraphim, constellations of elect souls, weeping, singing in the golden bhumi rungs. Goodbye, high throne, high central place, hallelujah, light beyond light, a wave of the hand to the central golden rose. Ahum alala ho Sophia, soham tarama, pat svaha, padma sambhava, marba, mila, dam popa, karmapa, trongpae, namastaji, Brahma, ave atque vale, Eros, Jupiter, Zeus, Apollo, Surya, Indra, Bam Bam Sivaye, Ram Nam Saryahe, O Ganipati, Om Sarawati, Ri Soha, Ardina Rishvara, Radha Hare Krishna. Farewell, fare thee well, forevermore. None left standing, no tears left for eyes, no eyes for weeping, no mouth for singing, no song for the hearer, no more words for any mind. Cherry Valley, February 1st, 1973. So I think you can see that Allen Ginsberg dipped into many and all traditions. He was a relentless seeker. Some might say he was scattered and undisciplined, but I think there was a kind of unorthodox discipline in his life. And I feel we owe him and the other beat poets, Anne Waldman, who co-founded with him, by the way, at Naropa University, the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics, which is a poetry training center in Boulder, Colorado. I feel we owe these people a debt for what they've done in popularizing and making accessible Buddhism in the US, which without sort of pioneers like that probably would have remained just a foreign and unapproachable place. So I'd like to conclude with a YouTube of of Allen Ginsberg reading one of his works that he composed after the death of his father. It's said to be a kind of Kaddish or funeral prayer for his father. So we'll see if this works.
Father Death, I'm flying home. Poor man, you're all alone. Oh, Daddy, I know where I'm going. Father Death, don't cry anymore. Mama there, underneath the floor. Brother Death, please mind the store. Old Auntie Death, don't hide your bones. Old Uncle Death, I hear your groans. Oh, Sister Death, how sweet your moans. Oh, children Death, go breathe your breath. Sobbing breast, so ease your death. Pain is gone, tears take a rest. Genius Death, your art is done. Lover Death, your body's gone. Father Death, I'm coming home. Guru Death, your words are true. Teacher Death, I do thank you for inspiring me to sing this blues. Buddha Death, I wake with you. Dharma Death, your mind is new. Sangha Death, will work it through. Suffering is what was born. Ignorance made me forlorn. Tearful proof I cannot scorn. Father Breath, once more farewell. Birth you gave was no thing ill. My heart is still, as time will tell. Guru Death, your words are true. Teacher Death, I do thank you for inspiring me to sing this blues. Father Breath, once more farewell. Birth you gave was no thing ill. My heart is still, as time will tell. Father Death Blues, based on a conversation with Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, my Tibetan Lama teacher, who, when my father died, said, I extend my thought that your father entered Dharmakaya, empty blue sky, empty space. Please let him go and continue your celebration. When Burroughs' son was lying in a hospital bed with a balloon in his throat to prevent hemorrhaging, waiting for a liver transplant. He went to visit him, and Burroughs was on one side of the gurney or the rolling hospital bed. Trungpa Rinpoche on the other. And he said to William Burroughs Jr., the boy, "You will live or you will die. Both are good."
Sorry. Okay, so so that was just a taste of Allen Ginsberg and his life. What is he trying to tell us? What function did these rebellious spirits have in our lives? One thing that was consistent among all of these individuals was their impatience, their rejection of the materialistic consumerism that is such a large part of our lives. A rejection of that kind of possessiveness. So I think I'll stop there, and we'll break up into groups and maybe share any reflections on these words that we've heard.